Okay. Conspiracy groups question USA Southcom mission in Texas. And they go into attacking Joe Biggs and myself, a direct shake and bake. This is a direct psyop, classic lies. I knew what they would write before they wrote it, and they've done it exactly as we knew they would. What a joke. What a sick joke to try to make everything we say sound like a lie without ever actually linking to our claims. That's what they always do. And this is meant to manipulate the military more than anybody else. I remember when they came out for 2 weeks after Katrina when we were reporting they were gun confiscating, and they said, no one's doing that. And then they decided to flip back, go, okay, we'll just show the video on TV, try to sell it to the public on ABC, NBC, CBS. Remember Obama said, I'm not coming after any of your guns, not your rifles, not your shotguns, not your semi-autos, not your handguns. He had Joe Biden say it over and over again in the first campaign, 2008, over and over again. And then when he came after your guns, he said, we're not coming after your guns. And Bloomberg was in the news funding tens of millions of dollars a month to get our guns and to finance state elections and city elections all over the country. He had an article, well, he gave a speech saying, I'm the most pro-Second Amendment person there is. I believe in the right to keep and bear arms, while he was pushing the total abolition of civilian ownership of firearms and the UN Unidentification Treaty. There is no attempt to put military on the streets. There is no attempt to take your guns. You can keep your doctor. It'll cut your health bill in half to the cost of a phone bill or cable bill. Raising the debt limit doesn't raise the debt limit. You didn't build your business. I'm not going to open up the borders. I mean, do people recognize bald-faced lies when they're in our face? I mean, I'm not even that smart. I just got common sense when people are sitting there shoveling lies and setting up classical tyrannies here in this republic. They announced 2 weeks ago they're going to start executive action taking private IRAs and education funds. They announced that they're going to start arresting anybody who keeps cash, even though there's no law. They are announcing all of this across the board right now. It all goes together like a horse and carriage. Look at this article. New York Times mentioned this. Law lets IRS seize accounts on suspicion, no crime required. And it talks about 40 years, Carol Henders dished out Mexican specialties at her modish cash-only restaurant. Had like 8 seats at the diner. For just as long, she deposited the earnings at a small bank branch a block away. And it goes through in the lengthy article that it was all had taxes paid on and everything, and that they still basically took everything out of her bank account and moved to start indicting her. And then they admitted this happens to tens of thousands of people. There isn't even a law. They say law, they interpret a law, kind of like the ATF says they're interpreting this 223 situation. So that headline is not even accurate. But this is what's going on. Now, that dovetails with our article that's linked on drudgereport.com right now to talk about tyranny. Feds urge banks to call cops on customers who withdraw $5,000 or more. When I take a crew of 5 or 6 reporters to Europe, I give them all $2,000 and they give me receipts, but in case the cards quit working, which happens all the time, we've got money. That's not, if we're carrying $10,000 cash on us, we're not criminals. Cash isn't illegal. This whole phony drug war, the banks launder the drug money publicly, and then they act like we're criminal taking company money or after-tax money out of the bank. And then they've got kangaroo juries on these federal juries who a lot of times are government agents, and the judge will order them to convict you even though there's no statute there. Or the statute says tens of thousands of dollars over and over again that wasn't after tax that you're then keeping and not paying tax on, but they just apply it to something else. Just like the IRS is going after the Tea Party right now. This is persecution. We'll tell you about this when we come back. But it all ties in together on every front. We're going into a tyranny. And a lot of people say, well, I'll just bend over and do whatever I'm told. That will ensure total destruction of our freedoms. Do you understand they're announcing they're going to take your pension funds? That's why they're getting the army ready. The choice has never been clearer that our republic is in the grip of a global corporate conspiracy calling itself the New World Order, establishing a new form of dictatorship known as technocracy over the planet. This has been announced at Davos this year, last year, and the year before. It's been announced by Zbigniew Brzezinski all over the news and in 4 different books. It's been announced on CNBC over and over and over again. It's been announced in the Financial Times of London by their foreign editor who attacked us a few years ago and said, "And now for world government," was the headline. And then after we read his article on air, he wrote another article attacking us by name and said world government doesn't exist and that we were insane. This is the mind game they play. No one's coming after your guns. We just want you to turn them in. And we got a bunch of bills to do it. Obamacare cuts your prices in half, even though it doubles or triples them. It's classic gaslighting, which is a psychological term known since the 30s, where you walk up and say, punch your wife in the nose, and then she gets knocked out. When she gets up, you go, baby, I didn't punch you in the nose. And she's like, I saw you, and you fell and hit your nose. And if you say it with enough confidence to a weak-minded person, they will actually believe it. And that's what's happening is we're being gaslighted. And gaslighting's a natural thing. I'm sure you've all experienced a loved one or someone be really rude or mean to you and say something really horrible. And you say, you just said this to me. And they'll go, no, I didn't. You'll go, yes, you most certainly did 10 seconds ago. No, I didn't say that. That is a tactic that we see more and more in this society. And I'll say it psychologically, and it's in the psychological research papers that are out there. Women do that more often than men, and women are more susceptible to gaslighting. Women do it more, and they're more susceptible to it. Now, I'm not knocking women, just in the psychological archetypes, it's well known. Men are more likely to be psychopaths. Men are more likely to steal. Men are more likely to be into weird, deviant, bizarre stuff in the criminology. In fact, I think it's something like 25-1 men committing murders to women. It's almost 100-1 men being psychopaths versus women. So I'm not bashing women, but women are extremely suggestible and extremely manipulatable when they're in an unconscious state. And the whole culture is about putting people in that state. So what the Pentagon's doing, going, there's no plan for the military on the streets. It's crazy and anti-military. There's no plan to militarize. There's no plan to take over. Alex thinks we're taking over this summer. We're not going to invade and take over the State House. We didn't say you were going to do that. We said in the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, it talks about putting down rebellions in the states, including governors and legislators. Look it up. We said there's a plan for Brigade Homeland to have brigades in every region to suppress the people. And in all your training manuals that we got and we broke, that are now all over the news, from the Washington Post to Fox News, you trained to take on your new #1 enemy. And it isn't ISIS, it isn't Iran, it isn't Russia, it isn't China. It isn't drug lords. It is returning veterans, gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, evangelical Christians, anti-Federal Reserve activists. And then you sit there and talk to me like I'm 2 years old and say, Joe Biggs claims he was in the Army and he's on the Alex Jones Show. That's in the Army Times. Little stuff like that. Every line is written to deceive people. Joe Biggs is a famous soldier because he had Michael Hastings and other people embedded with him in major battles in Iraq and Afghanistan, and was, just by the bad luck of it, blown up in armored vehicles twice in front of the media. And then everybody knows who Joe Biggs is. You can Google his name. You can see him in Army reports, loading munitions 10 years ago. But they sit there and say, oh, how about this? How about I claim I'm a radio host, too? How about I claim the world's round? Your garbage doesn't work
We're
on
on
us.
the march.